If you want to develop your intuition, then this video is especially for you. In this video, I'm sharing how I went from being highly intuitive as a kid to almost losing the skill and then learning it again. If you're here for the first time, my name is Kiran. Welcome to my channel where I talk about mindfulness, emotional resilience, and spirituality. Now, as a kid, intuition came naturally to me. Of course, back then I didn't know it as intuition. Now, this might sound strange, but I was one of those kids, like I would talk to myself, especially, during exams when I would be super stressed. I would know exactly what to say to myself and calm down my nerves. But then by the time I entered college, my intuition took a downturn. Now you have to know that I have a bachelor's and a master's in physics. And as with most scientific endeavors, I was trained to be highly analytical. And back then I thought this was the most important skill I needed to be successful in life. And boy, was I wrong. Because fast forward, life happened, and despite following my highly analytical mind, my life felt miserable. And looking back, part of the reason was that at that time I was living a life that was completely disconnected from my heart and my intuition. So how did I turn things around? Now I know when it comes to developing your intuition, a lot of people say follow your gut. But it's easier said than done, because a lot of times, we know what our gut is telling us, but we lack the clarity or the courage to act upon it. And for me, learning to tap into my intuition again meant educating my brain. Now, the book that nudged me to tap into my intuition was Set Material by Jane Roberts. This book was written in 60s, but it is as relevant today as it was back then. And reading this book was like, it was for the first time, like it normalized intuition for me. So upon reading this book, I finally got that intuition is not a skill reserved for some psychics or a select few. Every single human can tap into their intuition. And I remember being so enamored by what I had read in this book that I felt I needed to implement it. And so I set out on a 1-week challenge to follow my intuition. And the way I went about this experiment was that I promised myself for 1 week, I will listen to that inner voice, that intuitive nudge, and follow it to a T. And by the end of my experiment, I was shocked at how effortless my week went. Like quite literally, I would get moment-to-moment guidance. When to wake up, when to sleep, when to read, when to do yoga, when to eat, and on and on. Like there was no thinking, just knowing. And in many ways, it felt spooky. Now, given my excellent results from this experiment, one would imagine that I would continue following my intuition. But despite my best efforts, I couldn't. Like my analytical mind just couldn't fathom how does my intuition know so much. The thing is that, intuition is not dependable like logic. Like logic dictates that if you say study engineering for 4 years, then given you pass all your exams, then by the end of 4 years, you would be an engineer. Like with logic, there is a starting point, there is an end point, and there is a linear path that gets you from point A to point B. But when you follow your intuition, you have a starting point, but you have no idea where you will end. And that's the part that can make a lot of people uncomfortable, because majority of us, we crave certainty in life. Like for me, when it came time to following my intuition and really honoring that inner voice, what I was doing in my life for a long time is what I like to call conditional listening. As in, I would listen to my intuition when it was convenient. About mundane things, I would listen to my intuition to the T. But when it came time to make big decisions like changing jobs or moving to a different state or country, those times I would hesitate trusting my intuition, because my intuition was asking me to do things that felt out of my comfort zone, that triggered a lot of fear. And so I had to work really hard to develop a relationship with my intuition. And it was a slow, gradual process. It didn't happen overnight. Like, when you meet someone, when you form a relationship of any kind with another person, it takes time to start trusting another. And it was the same with intuition. It was almost as if intuition had to gain my trust. And that wasn't too difficult because every single time I didn't follow my intuition, things sucked. And after many painful lessons, I finally got that my intuition is always working in my favor and never against me. And in many ways, this realization, this dawning was a turning point for me. Now, a lot of times I get asked, how do you know what's an intuitive nudge and what's not? In my experience, what I have noticed is that when I keep getting the same message day after day, I know that's my intuition talking. Like when I was changing my career from IT to being an author, for months, my intuition was telling me that I needed to make a change. Now, it's a different story. I didn't want to hear this message because it triggered all kinds of fears in me. What if I can't pay rent? What if I fail? What ifs? And every single thing that wouldn't work out. And for the longest time, I was really stuck in that what ifs because I didn't know what was on the other side of this experience. Now, every time we are stuck because we have some core fears that are preventing us from taking that leap of faith. And once I addressed these fears, not only was I able to overcome them, but I was also able to listen to my intuition. And in the next few weeks, I will share one of the most effective ways to overcome your core fears that prevent you from moving forward. Looking back, I am so grateful that I took time to develop relationship with my intuition because now I trust it implicitly. I don't doubt it. Like most recently, I had an intuitive nudge to take time away from LinkedIn. At first, it made no sense because LinkedIn is a platform I really enjoy and I have a lot of friends there. But when my intuition kept insisting, I said, so be it, whatever you say. And I kid you not, 2 days later, a super important project came along that left no time for LinkedIn and even YouTube. And that is part of the reason why I was not able to make videos for YouTube past few weeks. The thing with intuition is that a lot of times you may not know why your intuition is asking you to do a certain thing, but be rest assured that in due time, that reason will be revealed to you. Now, what is your favorite way to develop your intuition? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I hope these suggestions were helpful. As always, please only take what resonates, discard the rest. Thank you so much for your time today. I will see you next Tuesday with a new video. And until then, have a beautiful rest of the week.